Nice to see everybody. My name is Jana Mori, and I'm the Student Program Advisor in the Career Center at Santa Barbara City College. I would like to ask everybody to mute if you are not muted right now so that we have some nice sound for everybody. This is a collaborating event with the Media Arts and Technology Department, or as we say, the MAT program. And we're really excited to have 3 alumni that are here today to join us in our time together. First, though, I'd like to introduce a couple of people from the Career Center, and then I'll tell you a little bit about, not only the Career Center, but also our faculty. But I'd like to also let you know about our program overview as well. So just quickly, I'd like to introduce Christina Mcguire. She's our internship coordinator and co-host of this event. Christina, if you want to say hello real quick.
Sure. Hi, like Jana said, I'm the internship coordinator at Santa Barbara City College. So any questions regarding internships, feel free to reach out. I'm looking forward to speaking with you all.
Great. Maybe we'll be hearing about some internships later. That'd be fantastic. Thanks, Christina. And then we have Val Yerman, who's a Career Center counselor, a CTE specialist, and the MAT program is under her purview. So Val, do you want to say hi as well? Is she on? I thought I saw her come in. Do you see her in there, Christina?
I thought I saw her logged in, but maybe technical difficulties.
Maybe technical difficulties. Yeah, we're going to go with the flow, y'all, here. That's what we have to do with Zoom. So Valerie is our Career Center counselor who, if you have any questions about this career, she's a great one to speak to, as well as Christina and I are also available. But you can make an appointment with Val Yerman on Starfish. And a little bit later, we'll put that information in the chat so you can have that at your disposal before we close up our shop later this afternoon. Okay, with that, I would like to introduce one of our instructors, which some of you or many of you probably already know, but Mihir Mahapatra. And you want to say hello, Mihir, and then we'll go ahead and have Alejandra give the presentation on the academic programs. Are you there, Mihir? Okay, moving right along.
Wait. Okay.
There you are.
Okay. All right. I get it.
We just want to say hi to you so everybody knows your face.
I'm saying hi to everyone.
Perfect. Yeah, he's one of our wonderful instructors and has been integral in helping to get this presentation off the ground. So thanks, Mihir. And then we also have a Professor Alejandra Jarabo, who has been instrumental as well. And she's going to speak just briefly about the MAT program at Santa Barbara City College for those of you who are not currently involved in the program and maybe have some interest in it. So here she is.
Okay, let me check. Yes. So the MAT program is a very interesting program that is kind of split in 2 different programs with 2 different focuses. And in each one of them, we have a certificate and an AA degree. We don't have too many classes. It's important for people to understand that what we do in those programs is introduce students to a certain discipline and a certain techniques that are going to be useful for them later on in their career, but that by no means what they do in college is enough to jump straight ahead. In fact, I would love that our alumni today tell us, what did they do? What was their process? You know, after they finish their degrees and their studies in City College, how did they evolve in order to get to the next horizon? That is an important thing to do. So we prepare people for transferring. Having a degree is very important in our field. Our 2 main areas of focus, one is animation and gaming with a concentration in 3D animation, and that is Mihir Mahapatra all by himself. I teach the 2D, so I try to compensate and to introduce people to the in the 2D platform that is a little bit simpler, and to work more in story and in general combining all elements. And then we have a completely different track that is media arts. And in that track, we have digital imaging in general. So we have, Photoshop, and we have Illustrator. And then we have interaction design, several classes, interactive design 1 and 2. We have interface design. We have web design. We have online marketing. So there are a number of different classes that are going to prepare you more towards people that are going to be in the interactive business. I didn't know that we had somebody today that was working in interactive. I was very pleased. And again, in both disciplines, although I know Mihir works so hard that by the time students finish with him, they are ready, they have a strong portfolio, but still you need to work by yourself. And that is something that in general, early students of college do not understand, that their future is in their hands, it's not in their instructor's hands. What we do is we facilitate, but the people that are making the effort, the people that are trying to connect and to know more people that probably are going to be working in the industry in the future, that is the individual. Each one of you, of my students and my prospective students, are designing the path where they want to go, the classes that they want to take, the people that they want to meet, and they're deciding how they're going to keep on going once they leave, because this is only the beginning of the adventure. So, you think that's enough?
That's great. Thank you so much, Alejandra. Yeah. So we have our academic programs, and we'll have some panel introductions and panel presentations and panel questions, and then audience Q&A. And I'd like to invite you to, if you have questions along the way, to please put them right into the chat. And Christina will be monitoring our chat today. So I'd like to introduce our wonderful panelists. Thank you so much for taking time out of your, I'm sure, quite busy schedules. It's kind of a challenge getting people who work in the map field to come and join us because of deadline projects and the intensity of the work sometimes. And I'm sure that you'll be speaking to some of that today. But I'll go ahead and start with James. And James, do you want to say hello real quick?
Absolutely. How am I doing? Can everybody hear me just fine? I made a switch on my headphones.
It's a little echoey,
okay.
But we can hear
echoey?
you. Yeah, but we can hear you.
Okay.
Perfect.
I may switch up in the middle of this. I'll do it on the fly.
Okay.
Sounds a little bit kind of like a flat, or really
It does.
kind of like, yeah.
Okay.
Not
Sorry
that we're
about
picky
that.
or anything.
Now it's working better.
No.
Hey, now it's working better.
Oh, okay, that's good. I'm always used to feedback. In this position, you hear a lot of feedback from anybody. So anything I can do to help, usually
Thanks,
good.
James.
No
James
problem.
Mosley, I'm going to go ahead and formally introduce you then while you're setting that up if you want. James Mosley II is currently a production manager at Reese Witherspoon's media production company called Hello Sunshine. And right now is working in the kids and family animation division. He started as a production intern at Nickelodeon in the Nickelodeon on the Dora and Friends animated series in 2014, and has since gone on to work production on animated series such as for Nickelodeon, Pinky Malinsky and Santiago of the Seas, Cleopatra in Space with DreamWorks Animation, We Lost Our Human with Netflix Animation, and Unannounced with Hello Sunshine. And he is a 2013 SBCC student alum. So he, for those of you who are current students, knows exactly what you might be going through right now, except for he wasn't there during a pandemic. Next, we have Wesley. Wesley, you want to say hello?
Yeah, hello.
There you are. Hi, Wesley. Wesley's working as a software engineer at a startup company called Modumate in San Francisco. And that's the beauty about being on Zoom right now is we can have people join us from far away. And he's right now creating a program to help architects design and manage their buildings with automated drafting. Prior to working at Modumate, he tutored and taught at SBCC for video game design. And in his spare time, he works on crowd-funded projects and experiments on procedural generation for games. Thanks, Wesley, for joining us. And last but not least, Chris Emerson. You want to come on and say hi?
Hello, everyone.
There he is. And Chris is all the way from Bend, Oregon, which is I think our farthest person. And so glad he could make it today. He's also, well, actually everybody, all of our speakers are SBCC alumni. And Chris right now is a technical artist at Sony Interactive Entertainment Bend Studio as developer of Days Gone, where he's been for 7 years. His responsibilities on Days Gone include character rigging, character optimizations, and tool development for the content pipeline. And he considers his biggest contribution on display as the large number of enemies on screen that they were able to push in their expansive world. I'm real curious to hear about that. Chris was a student of Mihir's for about 3 years. And then he went on to Cal State Fullerton, where he received his bachelor's degree. He had a brief internship at visual FX industry at Zoic Studios, but ultimately transitioned to video games, working at Backbone Entertainment as a character artist on Harmonix's Dance Central 3. And then soon after that, he decided to embrace his coding-centric skill set, leading to his technical artist role today. Let's give him all a welcome. Thanks for joining us. So I'm going to ask some questions, and then I think what I'll do, because we're on Zoom, I'll probably ask each one of you individually so you know who's supposed to speak, so we don't have that awkward silence and wait for somebody to answer the question. And then part with you the questions I'll have whomever of you would like to share a little bit maybe about some of your work, if you've brought something with you, have something available to share with our group here to see sort of some of the stuff that you have worked on or are currently working on. I just did a sort of a synopsis of your career path and education, you know, where you work, what your job is, but I'd love for you to describe in your own words how you might talk about your career and education path. And how did you get to where you are today? Specifically, I had somebody email me a couple of questions, and one maybe you can embed in your answer is, how long did it take you to finish your education? And did you go to animation or art school? So with that, let's go ahead and start with you, Chris, since you're on board here right now. I can see you as our speaker.
Okay. Well, let's see. I went to school for a good amount of time. Like, I want to say it actually took me about six and a half years. Part of that was because going to Cal State Fullerton, it's a standard Cal State. You have a lot of electives to take. They're not necessarily as concerned with fast tracking you out of there in 2 years. They want you to come out of there with a broad education. So on top of your core electives, right, that I took at Santa Barbara City College, they also had a host of other classes that I needed to take, like things that I enjoyed, right, like music classes and, you know, California history and random stuff like that. But also, you know, it was a pretty long but very valuable art program. I did go through the art department. I did go through their animation department, and spent a lot of time drawing, a lot of time figure drawing, a lot of time storyboarding, like dabbling in all sorts of things related to the entertainment field. So yeah, it was quite a while. Was that the only question so far?
No, well done, well done.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wesley, would you like to go ahead and answer that question too? Describe your education career path and how long did it take you to get your education? And did you go to animation or art school?
Yeah, sure.
I'm just throwing a bunch of questions at you at once, sorry.
Oh, no, I will try to answer all of them at once. Actually, my education career path might not be similar to the rest of you, but I'll try my best to relate to you guys. Yeah, wow, the SBCC is such a long time ago, so I'll try to go chronologically. I actually graduated from UCSB with a very different major. I actually graduated with a biology major from UCSB in 2013. Then I was like, oh, finally graduated. I'm going to take like half a year off. And then I went to SBCC, met those wonderful faculty, Alejandro and here, and kind of took an interest in it and became a tutor and eventually taught. During that time, Unreal Engine 4 came out. And I was like, oh, that's a really, really cool new thing. I'm going to try it out. I don't know what I was doing. Somehow I entered a competition for Unreal Engine, something regarding architectural visualization. I entered it unknowingly, somehow won. Okay, I'm not gonna say unknowingly. I'm not gonna say somehow won. I know exactly what I was doing. I saw what happened in the competition and realized there's no way I can compete guys with like 10 years of experience. So I did something completely different, and it got noticed somehow, and people start contacting me. It's like, hey, look, this is really interesting. How did you do it? And then over the years, when I was still tutoring and taught at SBCC, I learned a lot from a lot of different online community, just searching for tutorial. I might actually just say Discord, Slack, these online tools really great in putting communities together. Well, ArtStation, just keep your social contact with each other. And somehow, like in my current job, there's a person that says, hey, we're looking for somebody with Unreal Engine skill that also relate to architecture. So I went in and did an interview with them, and they said, oh, great, you're hired. And I got stuck with them for 2.5 years now, all the way from prototyping to release of our product.
Sweet.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. That's great. Thank you for sharing that. Chris, you're up next. I mean, James, sorry.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, I think it took me about 6 years, I think, to fully graduate and kind of get my foot into the industry. I started at Santa Barbara City College and I majored in animation. I forgot what the name of what the correct title of that major was. I think it was just animation at the time. And I took Mahir's 3D animation class. That was really fun. I took Alejandra's Flash class. I took the multimedia arts class, all those different classes. And there came a point where I had to figure out exactly how I was going to graduate out of Santa Barbara City College. So I met with a career counselor, and yeah, that definitely helped. Yeah, so you're doing God's work in a sense. And yeah, they just told me I needed a few more courses to get the video game minor, and so I took Tyler Heck's class. I'm not sure if he's still there, but yeah, I took his course, and that was really eye-opening. And yeah, I think there got to a point where I fulfilled all my requirements, and it was time to start looking for new schools to transfer to. And I did a little bit of research on some of those schools that have like a high success rate with people graduating and getting a job in the industry. And one of those schools was Cal State Fullerton. So I ended up going to Cal State Fullerton too, Chris.
Nice.
Yeah, so you're like a fellow Titan. As soon as I heard that my heart lit up. And yeah, that it was like Chris kind of said, it was kind of like a great program over there. And there came a point when I was taking classes where I kind of realized that my artistic skills weren't as serving to the world as my production skills and being able to manage a production. And I think that was kind of solidified around like 2014. I ended up getting like an internship at Nickelodeon, and I did so well as an intern. They ended up hiring me before I could graduate, and they made me something called a part-time PA, which I'm not sure is legal, but I think, actually I think it is. Okay, so it's okay if this is being recorded, but but they made me a part-time PA, and that's when I kind of knew I wanted to be a producer rather than doing the actual artwork itself. And yeah, I was just kind of off and running since then.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Can you describe for us, James, a typical workday right now?
Yeah. So my typical work day, I read a lot of self-help books. I follow a lot of CEOs, and so I've incorporated some of their lifestyles in mine. My typical work day is I wake up around like maybe 6:30, maybe 7, and then I go work out, and then I check emails or Slack to see if there's any fires I need to put out like right away. If not, most of my day is just like meetings with like my producer or my production team. I got a coordinator and a script coordinator that I oversee. I see what I can do for them in the mornings. And then, most of my day right now on this project is pretty filled with just making sure that the schedule and like the budget is being maintained, and that, milestones for the day are being executed. Anything I can do, really. And, whether that is contracts being executed, a lot of the boring stuff, I think, for a lot of the people here on this call who are involved in the actual artwork. But, a lot of my day is like putting in purchase orders, creating budget scenarios, and, just kind of fulfilling any requests that need done on my crew by working with other team members in the studio.
Super interesting. Thank you.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wesley, what about you? What's your typical workday look like?
I will wake up around 8:30 and then jump right into Slack and Google Meet around 10 o'clock. Actually, I can just describe my entire day. Let's see here. Slack meeting, and then as James said, whatever fire my designer put out or whatever, it was already fire started by the QA. I try to put it out as a software engineer. And usually those are bugs that was discovered by customer or the QA team. They will usually have a bug log online, and then we look at them and says, oh, that's actually my fault. And usually it's because I've been working on the project for quite a bit, and we just go back and says, oh, okay, remember that to-do comment that I made a year ago? This is now the time to work on that to-do comments. And yeah, usually, to come to think of it, my day-to-day is a little bit different now compared to prototyping days. Prototyping days involve like going to design and says, what needs to be done? And they say, oh, let's make this happen. And then we work on it, and then pat us on the back and says, good job, now we can show it to an investor. And then, but now we're releasing it. Now, instead of investors, we're working with customers and customer requests. And also all the other bugs that, again, is on the to-do comment, now we gotta fix them. But being released doesn't mean that there's no more prototyping. Like a lot of time, we talk to customer and discover that, oh, actually, we should implement this additional feature to it. And then we go back to the production phase now. We go back to the prototype phase now, sorry. So it's really cycling. We have something called a sprint, which is a 2-week period of work, which is like the first few days, we talk about what the sprint is going to be, the division of labor, how's it going to work, and then we work through the problems, and then at the end of the second week, we're like, okay, what doesn't work? Because let's be honest, not everything that is going to go according to plan. It's just that in the next sprint, in the next 2 weeks, we're going to have to look out on all those to do that rewrote. And honestly, that's have been pretty much what we do throughout this 2.5 year. We go by this incrementally small sprint, which is 2-week period, and we just keep going until the investor or the customers are satisfied.
Thank you. How many people are on your team or on the team that you're talking about that's working on in the sprint?
Back in 2018, it was 3 people. And then now we are about 10 plus minus 1 or 2. We have like, we're starting to have contractors now too.
Very nice.
Mhm.
Chris, you're up. Thanks.
Well, I used to have a 10-minute commute. Now I have a 10 feet commute, right? So depending on where you work, people typically roll in at different times, but I've been lucky enough to work at least 2 places professionally where work doesn't really get started till about 9:30, 10 o'clock. I mean, obviously it can go quite a bit later than that, but I generally hop on my computer and it's very similar to what you just heard. Check my emails, check Slack, a lot of Slack communication through COVID right now. And look, first make sure there's no fires I need to put out. And we're in a state of production where I'm lucky enough that I can spend a fair amount of my time prototyping these days, right? So it's not always a luxury that you have, but it's definitely an area where I thrive. So we probably have a fair amount in common there. But yeah, I spend a lot of time writing code throughout my day. I mean, I still get to do art, right? But a lot of it is more related to the rigging end of things, a little less related to, I'm not sculpting as much these days and actually authoring characters. But yeah, mostly it's code and tools writing, but that's where I'm comfortable.
Can you talk a little bit about the coding side of the work?
Yeah. So I guess a little background. Before I even took Wasim's class years and years ago, my dad introduced me to programming. So I learned how to code in BASIC when I was pretty young. And moving on from there, dove into a lot of Python scripting for Maya. And from there, and it's funny because I never really took any coding classes in college at all, but I'm writing a lot of C++ these days and a lot of tools development with Python. And for me, it's really enjoyable. It's not necessarily for everyone, but one of the benefits I feel like since I made the move from the art production side to the tech side was every day to me feels like a new challenge, and art can be a different challenge every day, but a lot of the days it can be a little similar. So for me, it feels a little bit more varied on this side of the field, but it's mostly where my interests are.
You mentioned some software programs. It seems like they're important to know. Are there any other ones that you recommend students to learn?
I mean, the big ones in terms of what people use where I work, it's really important that you know Maya, ZBrush, if you want to be on more of the texturing side of things. Substance and Substance Painter are both pretty critical these days. And aside from that, there's a lot of middleware software too that we take advantage of, and those can be simply gone. There's a whole host of different pieces of software that find their way into the pipeline.
Yeah, that's great. I know even since the last time we did this type of event, it's all changed, or a lot of it's changed. Alejandra, did you want to say something?
Yes.
Okay.
I have to apologize to Wesley because when I did a little bit of like the painting of the department, I didn't say anything about game design. I didn't say anything about gaming. It's like, we don't do gaming here. And it's important for people to kind of understand the context that we have one important class in 3D gaming that is game design. That is the class that Wesley taught, and the class that, we have had already 3 instructors into that class. And that has become our little, quick introduction into the world of 3D gaming. We work the Unreal Engine, that is the one that Wesley became an absolute pro. And then I teach interaction design, where we have to understand, in our department, we work with coding, but we not necessarily have a background in coding. And I like a lot what Chris was talking about, like, I never took classes in coding and I ended doing coding. I never took classes in coding and I teach coding. What about that? And, and there's a lot in this industry that if you come with a very orthodox background in coding, you end being a normal engineer. But if you come from an kind of like adventurous background in coding, you tend to end coding in the entertainment industry, because those people that are adventurous are the ones that are not fearful, and they're trying, okay, let me try this language, and then let me try this, and then try it this way. And they're kind of like fearless, because everything is kind of like, hobby and interpersonal. Well, it doesn't matter. So in the math department, we do a little bit of coding. In the Unreal Engine, they do like, a blueprint, like, connecting. And in my classes, they do action scripting. And we're preparing to do a little bit of JavaScript. But it's important to say that in the world of animation, not intuitive idea of animation and entertainment, there's a lot of coding. And our students might not have or need an orthodox background in coding, but they need to do their little experiments. It doesn't matter what they're going to do later. I still remember when I had James in my interaction design 2 class. Do you remember? Oh my gosh, he was so creative. Like, how can I do this when I don't have a clue or how to do it? And the guy went and, threw whatever he wanted. That's when I realized that James is going to do something in life, because even not knowing what he's doing, he can throw something.
I had no idea what I was doing in the classes, I'll be honest. But it does help. I work in production, but I am thankful for all the classes that I've taken with you, because it is important to know the create, a little bit of the inner workings of the artistic. Yeah.
And I want to say, I'm very excited that James is here, because I keep on telling my students, guys, you don't need to go for production. The world needs producers, and needs producers that know what they're doing. Because, when you begin dealing with some producers, you're like, goodness gracious, this is what a retired English instructor, why is this person producing? So, having producers that understand the field and understand the sensibility of the worker, and that understand what they're doing, that is amazing. Everything runs better when you have good producers. So we are training also producers, and that's something that we need to emphasize.
Thanks.
I need to add to it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Especially coding, the advantage of us in the graphics side, in general, I'm talking about, is that when we do some codings, we see something happening beautiful in our screen. Okay, so that actually becomes an incentive for people. Then those who are hard coding in the computer science background is more advantage, that it actually makes people to really go into coding side. Like, it's back for me, it's the same thing. Like, I hated to do coding, but when I started seeing things happening in your front, like mixing the colors, it coming out like, wow, and just like 3 lines of Python code, wow. And so that's where we all started getting into the coding. And you will see most of the people in the industry, those who are really excellent coding people, they all had a strong art background, and then they saw things how it is happening in the coding side, that they all got it back into it more, started doing research and learn, like Chris or Wesley and all, so most of them are like that. So they all equally art, and they also understand the numbers to do the coding. So yeah.
Great. That's great input. I'm glad you both were able to bring that up.
Yeah, and mostly one advantage of Mosley was that he exactly what Alejandra said, that Mosley took every complicated process.
Yeah.
And I will remind him, he started doing it motion builder with character designing. Okay, well, okay, skeletons and all. I know he had 3 characters. I said, Wesley, what are you doing? Like, well, but he wanted to make his hand dirty. He touched everything, every possible thing around him. So by the time that he spent at the SBCC, he got an AA, and he was well, because he invested that money, he just simply was not taking the class. He did worked hard in every class, you know. So he knew so much about production and everything that it didn't even bother for him to really go into Fullerton to complete his degree. It was that very first year he was done. Okay, man, I'm ready for the real world. I don't need the school anymore. So yeah, that's my point.
Thanks, Mihir. Wesley, do you want to answer the question about what software you think is important to know?
That's a good question. I mean, Chris already answered a majority of it. I would add to it that, in my field at least, you don't have to be the best in order to think that you have a chance at it. I think every software, I wouldn't say every software deserves a chance for you to use. I would say, like, try to use them and see why is this software capable? Like, why do you want to use the software? When Unreal Engine first came out, Unity was very dominant, and I used it out of curiosity. And turns out it is pretty useful. When Substance Designer first came out, like, it has potential, but I think a lot of older artists look at it as like, why do we need these like nodes for? Like, we can just draw it. But look at it now, it's very quick to procedurally generate those textures. I think we should naturally be curious of new software that's coming out. Don't just say like, always better, but try to look at it from another angle and see how it will improve your workflow.
Yeah. Be curious and go for what is interesting and what you want to work on. Yeah, very good. Basically, it's keeping up to date. Thank you. Would any of you like to share some of your work and share your screen? And if you'd like to, just speak out now for who might want to go first.
I think Chris and Wesley, I think they're gonna have more things to show. Like, you could just, only thing I have is like you Googling what I worked on.
That's exactly what I'm gonna do. So
Hey, mostly don't you have anything from your YouTube? Your old YouTube things? Can we see some? That's another side of you, right? I don't know. Or are you Sam? I don't know.
I probably, I deleted all that stuff once I got very high up, like, in my industry.
He's a good rapper. Actually, by the way, he's a good rapper. And yes, I have heard and seen him before.
That's hilarious. Yeah, those are different days, man.
But we can look you up, James?
Yeah, absolutely. You could try to YouTube some stuff if you want, at your own risk, though.
Okay, thank you.
Jana, I have a question. I have a question for James that I'm dying to know.
Okay.
So I know that James, when he was in SBCC, he was very good in areas that were not specifically not. Like, you were good in political science, you were good in argument, you were good, in rhetoric. I could already see that. But tell me, with the background in math and animation, and now you're in charge of almost accounting, organizing money, making order. Where is all that background in economics? Did you make it up?
No, that's a very good question, actually. So the funny thing is, I don't think you need that. I don't think you need a business degree per se to do what I do. I think the understanding, it's a very focused understanding of money and understanding like chart of accounts and budgets and stuff. But really what I do is something that a lot of people do with their own lives, like organizing how much money that they're spending, and just understanding how money works. But you know, it helps to know the creative side of things, because then you know how long things actually take and stuff, you know? So yeah, so I don't think you need to be like an economics professor to do what I do per se.
And I think a part of your story, James, is that you figured it out as you went along, right? So that's a lot of what happens when you are going out of the work field and taking an internship or, you know, whatever. So
to Alejandra's defense, though, I read a lot of books. I fell in love with business as I was in animation. So I read a lot of books on my own about money too. So you are right. I did have some education.
I mean, I love it. You're my hero. Like, I want people that I train them to do this, and then they can go, whoa.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We have a limited time here, so I want to see if Chris, if you're ready and able to share some of your work.
Yeah, just give me 1 second to share my screen.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh no, I don't think I can share it, but I can talk. I could talk for days.
See if you can share now.
Okay, let's see.
I just changed the settings.
There we go.
Okay, perfect.
All right, so I'm just going to point you to the Days Gone website. For those of you that are not aware, Days Gone is a third-person action adventure open world game. And a little bit of history and context. Ben's studio, where I work, prior to working on Days Gone, we worked on Uncharted Golden Abyss, which hopefully people are familiar with the Uncharted franchise that Naughty Dog's created. So kind of what the idea was, let's see if we can marry the third person open world action adventure that you get from an Uncharted game with an open world. So I joined the team very early on into the development of Days Gone. And one of the things that, and one of the reasons why I actually really love working at Sony too, is the first question is, how are we going to push next gen? How are we going to show people, the consumers out there, what we can do with the hardware that we couldn't do previously? And that's when I started getting involved with one of the engineers at Bend, working on the large, sorry, I'm trying to see if I can switch screens really quick. The large amounts of enemies on screen. And that's a very interesting challenge when you're working with such limited constraints, because we have this massive world that actually, another benefit to living in Central Oregon is the game takes place where I live. So we got to go out and explore all these great locations and do a bunch of scouting too for the title. But yeah, it was a pretty difficult challenge to, when you think about balancing memory, memory management and performance, it's not an easy thing to do, and also get a high quality out of it that, will impress people. So spent a lot of my time, I was involved in a lot of character rigging too. There's probably not a cinematic in the whole game that I haven't touched in some shape or form. But I think, like I've mentioned earlier, the big thing that I'm really proud of is the technical accomplishment that we were able to get through. And a lot of Python coding, a lot of, my former boss actually, or former boss now, was from Naughty Dog, and he directed me to effectively build their asset pipeline that they had for their whole character pipeline. So me and one other tech artist for about 2 or 3 years were working on recreating a lot of the tools that he had at the last studio that he was at. But I think the plan moving forward is to try and do a little bit less duplicate work throughout Sony. That's pretty much all I have to share. we could always look at more Days Gone stuff too, but I don't want to monopolize everybody else's time too.
Thanks, Chris. What character
Yeah.
traits do you think are important for people to have for the work that you do?
Perseverance and a lot of like self-motivation, without a doubt, self-motivation and also creative thinking, right? Like it's no matter if you're on the art side of things or on the more code side of things, you constantly have to be thinking and asking questions about the process and trying to find ways to get the job done with, I don't want to say less effort, but spend less time on certain things so that you can increase your output in development. And that's something definitely where I work, because we're relatively small by AAA game studio standards. So we are constantly thinking about, well, how can we get this job done with less people? And yeah, I think it's really important for no matter where you work to always be thinking about that.
Great. Thank you. Wesley, do you have something for us?
Yes, I think. Yeah, let me also share my screen a little bit. I don't personally use Zoom. It's my second time in my life that
Oh,
use
really?
Zoom.
Oh, you're doing fine. You looking
Okay,
good.
great.
Wesley was doing actually a live webinar privately for his class. So he used to have like people in the Twitch. He used to have like 5, 6, 10 people coming in and asking
Yeah,
questions.
Twitch.
Yeah. So he's used to it.
That is an ancient history,
Mhm.
comparatively. Anyway, let's see here. So this is what we've been working on, Modumate. So I think that a lot of people, well, by a lot of people, I mean like more like 10 people in our team, describe it as more like a Sims Pro. So what we can do is just go ahead and make like a free wall. And I'm not going to go over the entire thing. I'm just going to open up a scene in here just to demonstrate what's going on. I assume that some of you have used Unreal Engine before. This is a standalone mode. Normally, oh, by the way, this is the Unreal editor. So if I actually at work right now, the moment I open this, there's going to be a lot of ensure, a lot of breakpoint, a lot of warning sign behind it. So it's like, hey, warning, warning, you got to do this. But because I'm in standalone mode, it's just ignore everything. So in a complete scene, you will see something like this. Now, what I want to say is that like this whole UI scheme, we put there was a lot of evolution going at it. So let's I'm gonna go in here. This is our break wall. People can edit. People can say like, I want a new layer and I want different module. But going from all the way 2 years ago, it started from this, just a sketch in the sketchbook. And then it slowly moved to, okay, how are we going to organize this? Well, why don't we try it like to organize it with nodes? Before that, there's even more outrageous scheme that, and then we simplify a lot. And then we realize Blueprint from Unreal Engine is pretty efficient in describing what the architect wants. So we went to a design phase, we went to a prototype phase, and then we slowly get the fresh out the look of it. And then we kind of let our designer, like each, before I described that we have something called sprint, which is a 2-week period. So by the time 6 months ago, we got to something like this. And finally, oh, this is an even older one. This is from all the way in January 2019. So it's not much to look at, but you can see our menu is like really prototypey. But now, by now, our UI look like this, and back then we can only build houses like this, but now we can build houses that is much similar to what people would expect from SketchUp or Revit. And just a moment ago, like literally Friday last week, I just implemented something that so that people can go in and cut the building and can see some line work. So we're getting there. But I would say that nowadays I work mostly with the UI side, and there's still a lot of improvement to do. But compared to this couple of years ago to this UI, there's a lot of work involved, and it's a really long journey, to be honest. Yeah. So yep, that's pretty much what I do.
Thanks,
Let me just
Wesley.
stop sharing.
Yeah, it was interesting to see the progress over time. And even though it might feel like a long time, a lot of work, it's in the span of real time, it's not that long, you know, as far as number of years from where you were to where you are now. Yeah. And yeah, we do want to save a little bit of time. If anybody has questions, you can put them in the chat. We're at 5 till, so we want to get that going. But go ahead,
So
Alejandra.
just very quickly, because I know that I have students that are here. And just for my students, I want to clarify that what Wesley is doing is he's designing the interface for the application and the behavior of the application. So for people that are out of the business, he's not creating houses in an app. He's creating the software that can create houses.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Great distinction. Super
That's
important.
why it's called a game engine, not a game software, because you create a software using the game engine.
Good one.
Thanks for clarifying that. That's great. I don't see any questions in the chat. Christina, am I missing anything? Okay, we're good. Here's one. As seasoned animators who have worked in the industry, what are some of the skills that we as students of future animators and artists should be practicing now so that we can be the best prepared for the industry? And what are some skills that you wish that you knew before entering the industry? Chris, you want to answer that?
That's a good question. I mean, if we're talking, because there's multiple facets to it. There's animation, there's modeling, there's rigging, there's, you know, the tools coding kind of side of things. I'd say for me, I actually wish I took more coding classes. I mean, in my current position, but I think that in general, the best advice I can give anyone that is looking to break into the industry, whether you want to do animation or, you know, modeling or environment artwork, it's to take some time to evaluate what you see is being out there, what portfolios are getting people jobs, and then take that and ask yourself, what can I do that is a little different from everybody else? What is the thing that I can show? You need to show that you're competent, but you also really, like, if you can demonstrate to an employer that you're not just another animator, you're the animator that's capable of doing this, that brings this extra added value to your position, that's going to go a very long way towards getting you hired in the first place. I mean, that's exactly how I was able to break in as a character artist, which is like, it's pretty, the odds of breaking in as a character artist are incredibly low in this industry. And the only way I was able to do it was demonstrating that I was writing software to help simplify the process. And that is what got my attention and got my foot in the door. So anything that you can show that somehow is different, maybe it's a particular art style or something that you know is going to help land you a job at a particular studio, but you don't see that many other people online pursuing that. Like, that is a potential. Yeah, that's my 2 cents there.
Thanks. And we have I think maybe a related question, or maybe one that's been touched on a little bit, but just to verify, relating to programming languages, what are a few you'd recommend to learn when starting out initially, at least?
I'd say Python's the baseline. Obviously, it's really useful if you also understand C++, but I think nobody that we hire for, unless it's a very particular position on the tech art side of things, are programmers. They need to be very fluent in C++, but
Mhm.
On the art side, Python is the big one, and after that would be other languages. But just I'd say by now, it's if you hear people talking about using Mel in Maya, just run the other way. Just go straight to Python, because Mel is everybody has moved on from Mel.
The tab is still there, you can use.
Wesley, do you have anything to add for the?
It's still there.
software?
It's still there. And
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
familiar with. Sorry. I was just going to say one last little thing. If you're using Unreal, right, which everybody probably should be by this point, definitely get a grasp of Blueprint and material graphs inside of there, because those are kind of forms of programming too, right?
Great.
Yeah, thank you, Chris, for mentioning Blueprint. Blueprint is surprisingly similar to C++. Well, the thing I have to note here is that Unreal C++ is slightly different than the C++, like raw C++ that people use. But I would say is getting started with Blueprint and watch some video, watch some tutorial, test out some C++ tutorial. You'll find a lot of similar terms and syntax they use between C++ and Blueprint. Python is a good start. And honestly, once you learn one language, you don't have to be advanced on it. You can be just beginning in Python, and then you can try to jump into C++ and Unreal. The best way to learn is to actually start making a project. That's the best way to learn, honestly. I don't have anything else to say. Like there's no speed run C++. Like you really have to start making a project using C++ to learn it.
Excellent
Can
advice.
I say something? Can I say something very quick?
Mhm.
It's important for people that don't know at all how to code. That code is like riding a bicycle. Once you run a basic bicycle, you can switch into, okay, now, with 6 gears, with 18 gears, now like that, now like that. So what you have to do is you have to step into some form of coding and understanding that logic. And then once you have put your foot in one mountain, then climbing to the other one is not a big deal. Here, the big deal is the first mountain. And that's why Wesley is saying, begin with a project, because you need something that is motivating you to step into this world that might feel a little bit unknown. But actually, it's important to know that any coding language is an open door for the next coding language.
Brilliant.
So it's beginning, it's riding the bike for the first time.
Great clarification. Thanks so much, Alejandro. Okay, we need to close up because it's already 5. I feel like we could just keep talking, but I do want to close with James with the last question. What advice do you have for students pursuing an education to work in this field? Just general advice for starting out.
Pursuing an education, like advice for them while they're in college, trying to prep for the
Yeah,
field?
where they are now, preparing for the careers.
I would say, this is not gonna be the best, but I would say network. To be honest, like, you can be fantastic, and you should work hard. You should be very talented, but if you want to get a job, I think I think you should definitely network. And just have a lot of like coffee chats. A lot of people like kind of cold message me on LinkedIn, and we'll do like a virtual coffee or something like that. And I meet a lot of potential PAs. Like if I had an opening, I would probably put them forward. A lot of times I don't, but you never know who you might meet, who might just have an opportunity for you. So I know it's hard. I know some of us have social anxiety, but if you can just kind of like take that leap and kind of meet a few people, I think it will work out for you.
That's exactly what we love to hear, James. You just hit it right on the spot. So thanks for sharing that. If you all speakers are open to being networked with, would you please put your email in the chat and email everyone? And then Christina has put my email in there if you have questions for follow-up, and Val's email for the Career Center as well. And then Christina for internships, but you can reach out to any of us. We can do all those things. So we've got James and Chris's contact info is in there. So we'll hang out a little bit here. So for those of you who want to write them down.
Yeah, networking is a good one. That's a really good one.
I saw your face, Chris. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you know.
Well, there is no other alternative than networking. And that's what at times, like I see our students sometimes that they really so confused to really communicate and networking, and like say, come on, start building some,
I try, yes.
And
I try-
everybody that's with us today as a panelist, as well as those of us from the Career Center, are on LinkedIn too. So if you have LinkedIn accounts, you can network that way. That's a beautiful way to network and stay in touch.
But it's very important. It's something that usually students don't get. It's not intuitive understanding that you're in a school to go to classes and you're in a school to meet other people.
Mhm.
My first 5 jobs were from people that I had studied with, and that I met them in a party and I said, oh, by the way, this is my email. And 5 months later, hello, are you working? We have something going on here. That is how you get a job.
Okay, so
I was
here's
just going to add to that really quick too. Something to keep in mind is, sometimes these people that you reach out to on LinkedIn, if you reach out to somebody relevant to your field at a company you want to work for, there's sometimes incentives for them to introduce people to the hiring manager, typically in the form of, a couple grand here or there. So, there's incentive on their end too, potentially. That I'm not saying be a pest. I'm just saying that it can help you out. And a lot of times actually, you may have an easier time getting in contact with them than you're going to have getting in contact with the actual studio through their normal application process. And you have to have the portfolio or the job, the experience to back it up. But if you do, it can be a way to open doors for yourself.
what I like. Normally, I tell my students, those who are, specifically every application they are learning, the producers has a forum, discussion forum. You see a lot of people joining over there, asking questions or communicating. Sometimes people really say like, hey, I need to really hire somebody to do some job, or it's like a great place where you meet people, other people of every program which we do, whether it's Maya or Houdini or Unreal. That's a big huge community, and just visiting that community, asking a question or just liking somebody, or maybe asking someone like, hey, could you please take a look at my thing. Do you think I'm good or bad? Getting some feedback from people is that another way I normally like people to do it, because it's free.
Great advice. I'd like to invite anybody who wants to scoot off now. They can, since it's after 5, but I suppose we could take a couple more questions if we wanted to too, if the panelists
There
can
is a
stay
question.
on. Is there a professional association for joining your industry? Professional industry association that somebody could join for the industry?
Are we talking about, there is the, oh God, I forget what it's called. It's the IGD, something like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's not typically something associated with any particular studio, but I do know that it's an organization designed to provide people information and represent people if they need representation. I don't know too much about it outside of that, but they typically have scholarships and other things like that happening too. I'll have to look up the link and try and remember what it's called.
Somebody wants to know about what the best studios are for starting out. And maybe we could talk, I don't know if you want, we can touch a little bit.
That is going to go for long hours.
Yeah, that's
I mean, I think, personally, I think Nickelodeon had one of the greatest internships, I've ever been in. So,
I've had a lot of friends go through Nickelodeon too.
yep, you're almost guaranteed a job too. If you do a pretty decent job.
So you recommend Nickelodeon?
Everybody predicts like a Disney does, and you just have to really look around. Summertime, most of them offer internships, quite a lot of all the big studios and all. If you want looking for big studios, but you have to understand that big studios, that means there are thousands like you are applying at the same time too. So it matters, but just like go around and just get some informations and then just keep pushing your application, keep pushing your application, who
Mhm.
knows?
I say too, don't limit your search. And maybe this is a little biased, right? Because here I am up in Oregon right now, but don't limit your search necessarily to what's close or what you know. Really explore other options out there, because what may be true for one studio in terms of being flooded with applicants may not be for another one. And typically speaking, it is very competitive, but you might be able to find your way in through a studio that's maybe a little lesser known. And everybody has big dreams too about what they want to work out, especially when you start in the industry. But you really, I started working on Dance Central, right? I'm not really a dancer myself, right? But I had such a fun experience working on that project, and it was something that I never really thought I would be open to without that opportunity to work there. And just keep an open mind, and don't think that there's one place for you, one place that's your perfect place to work. Just start broad and be open to things.
Yeah, Chris, just to add to that, I don't know if it's necessarily the studio culture per se, but just make sure that when if you are getting interviewed for a PA position or whatever that entry position is, it's going to come down to your team. I think your immediate team. So when you go to these interviews, make sure you are paying attention to what they're saying to your questions as well, and then you can just kind of see if they're a good fit for the person that you are too. But I think it comes down to the team more so than the broad studio.
Mm. Yeah, the smaller, you're looking at it from a smaller perspective rather than the whole company. Yeah. And students can come to the Career Center and do mock interviews too, to do some interview practice, because we all know interviewing can be completely nerve-wracking. And if you can plan ahead of time and get some practice in, it's always super helpful. Okay, with that, I think we'll sign off and give a big thank you to our group here that spoke. Thank you, Wesley, Chris, and James. And if you want to reach out for internships, Christina Mcguire is your person. And we look forward to being in touch with you. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks a lot, guys. Really, I enjoyed after seeing you guys after a long time. It's been a while.
My work computer's been busted, so I don't really have much else going on. So this is perfect timing.
This is a great reunion. Thank y'all.
They're great. Mosley, I'll keep in touch with you to know more about the new organization, because I'm curious about her, like